Hi, my name is Elissa Hecker. I'm an entertainment and arts attorney. I am very excited that you're watching this.
Creative Career Chat with Elissa D. Hecker, Esquire, entertainment and arts attorney.
I haven't met a lot of attorneys who say, I love being a lawyer. I love being a lawyer.
What do you do?
For me, being a lawyer is that my purpose is to help people. I like to work with creative people, and I help them with their businesses. I help them with their intellectual property, which is the most important thing for them. That's what they create. I help them with relationships. I help them with contracts. I help them with negotiations where they're trying to get things done, and just support them any way I can. I have a background in dance and love to perform and really know the mindset of the artists and the entertainers. My job is to be able to get my clients to do what they do best, which is create these wonderful works of visual or performing arts or whatever it is. So every time I talk to someone who has a new idea or who's creating something, it's exciting for me because I can't do that. I can help everybody do that. The most fun that I have is getting them to where they need to go so that they could just explode.
How did you become a lawyer?
I am the child of a lawyer and a teacher. And I was that kid, I don't know if there are any other kids, in kindergarten who put a C in a circle on all of my work for copyright. My dad is one of the first people who really did a lot of the high-profile cases in the copyright world for visual arts. So I grew up knowing his clients, and they were family friends and fascinating, and they were photographers and graphic designers and painters. And these were the people with whom I wanted to surround myself. High school, I just danced all the time. I played the piano. I was always involved in the musicals. Whoever is an entertainment attorney is usually a closet musician, dancer, writer, something. There's something creative going on. And then I really just grew up loving what my dad did. And it's nice because he still practices and we work on things together because I do a lot of things in one area and he does a lot of things in another area. And they're all related somehow in the arts. And it's fun when we work together on things. I went to law school. I've been doing this since 1999. I've been doing this for a really long time.
What was law school like?
Law school itself is 3 years if you go full time. If you're working during the day and you go in the evening, it can take 4 or 5 years. It is fabulous. It is hard. You don't go to law school unless you really want to be in law school. It's a lot of work. Once you're in law school, they teach you how to think like a lawyer but not be a lawyer. But then once you're out, you've learned enough to have a basic start. You have the basic tenets in your head, but I don't know if you can see there are all these books I have up there. I don't use any of what I got from those books. Everything that I do now is based on what I've been doing in the past, 20 years working on a day-to-day basis.
What's a day in the life of an entertainment and arts attorney like?
It kind of depends because I'm my own boss, so I don't really report to anybody. So I do a lot of phone calls, I do a lot of Zoom calls and meetings, usually working from here. I have clients all over the world, but I've had a home office for about 17 years, so I've always been able to do things remotely. I like seeing my clients in person when possible, but it just depends on the circumstances. Sometimes I take calls when I'm hiking. That's the beauty of being able to be connected. There are times where it's not fun. I have to write an agreement, or I have to negotiate with someone who's just awful, or I have to give bad news to a client where it's like, we thought you could do this, but it's not going to work out, or there are certain things, and it's not always fun. But for the most part, I really like it, and I really like my clients. That's another thing about working for yourself. Sometimes it's just as powerful to say no as it is to say yes to something.
How are you creative in your job?
I think it's very important for a lawyer to understand the whole client and the big picture so that you can see where this particular legal issue fits in the big picture, which is really important because sometimes the way you approach a legal issue will change depending on the intended outcome. What I do, because it's contracts and talking and figuring out business plans and doing things for copyrights and trademarks, you have to be creative in your job. And the reason why I said before when you said, how would you answer this? And I would say, I have to answer like a lawyer. It depends. We can always find one side or the other. There's very rarely black and white in law. There's always a way to tell your story, and then there's a way for the other side to tell their story and then to have to come together or to bring parties together. So it is very creative.
What are agreements?
An agreement is when two or more people or groups come together and want to do something together. They put down in writing, they should be putting down in writing, here's what I'm going to do, here's what you're going to do, here's what we hope to have happen, and then we agree it's going to happen by a certain time, and then we sign our names on the bottom and we date it, and then we go forward and we do it. It's called, again, a meeting of the minds, where everybody's agreeing to do something together for a bigger purpose. You have to have an agreement among the people in the group project. Who's going to do what? Who's going to do the research? Who's going to do the writing? Who's going to do the presentation? At what time do we have to finish? When is the presentation? And what happens afterwards? Or it's a mess and nobody knows what you're supposed to do and everybody ends up fighting. Even if you don't mean to, very often people will create a narrative that they truly believe is true when it may not have been. And that can be dangerous too, which is another reason why having an agreement or contract is really good to have. A lot of times people get into business together with friends or family. I'm like, this is why you want an agreement. Because if something happens, you can go back to the piece of paper and say, see, remember? As opposed to, this is not what we said, this is not what you said, I never want to talk to you again, I don't trust you. If you have it in a contract, you can keep the relationship and not have to worry about that. If you are someone who wants to work with someone else, you have what's called a collaboration agreement. So it's an understanding of who does what or who pays what, or if you're doing the choreography and someone else is doing the dancing and someone else is doing the filming and someone else may be doing the lighting, to make sure that all the parties are in agreement to what's happening and what the schedule is. There are other things, if things are going to be used streaming or on television or on platforms or in the movies, there are different kinds of agreements. If you're dealing with books, you have publishing agreements. With artists, there are gallery agreements or showings or purchase agreements.
What are copyrights and trademarks?
Both of these are called intellectual property. You can have something like my teacup, and this is your physical property. You can physically hold it. Intellectual property is something you have in music, in dance. If I sell you a photograph that I've taken, you own the photograph itself, but the image belongs to the person who took the picture. That's the intellectual property part. So you can't then do anything you want with the photograph, like put it on a billboard or stream it and say, this is mine, but you can hang it up in your bedroom. Copyright is when you create something and you can write a picture, you can put something down, as long as you can hear it, you can see it, you can feel it somehow where it's not just in the air, then it's something that can be protected. And if you created it, you came up with it on your own and you didn't copy anyone else, then that is yours. And then what you can do is fill out a form with what's called the U.S. Copyright Office, and they can file something there. You pay a little bit of money, you put it there, and you can protect it. And then if anyone else wants to use that in the future, they should be coming to you and asking your permission to use that. With a trademark, that is a brand. So if you have a Nike something and it has a swoosh on it, or you see the big M from McDonald's or something like that, that's a trademark, and that's a different kind of intellectual property. And that is protecting, if I see this giant M, I know it goes with McDonald's, and I know I'm going to get food. If I see a swoosh, I know it's going to be something relating to athletics, whether it's a ball or a sweatshirt or a hat or something or a sneaker. And that's what a trademark is. It helps protect and tell the people who want to buy your services or your products that you're the one who has created them.
What advice do you have?
One of the things my mom taught me in an early age is you can have it all, just not all at the same time. And to really set expectations and be smart about decisions when you can be. Sometimes things just happen, but what I would like every lawyer to have as bare minimum is a sense of humanity and kindness, to really understand either your client or dealing with someone else who may be negotiating with or against your client. Listening. I mean, listening is just as important as talking. I like to be the kind of lawyer where people are like, wow, I love my lawyer. And that's what I try to, when I talk to young lawyers or young law students coming up, I really try to say, one thing I learned from both of my parents is if you're having a negotiation or you're having a conversation or relationship, everybody should walk away from the table with something. so that you can maintain your relationships. And you never know when you're going to be working with someone in the future. It's just a better way to be. For anybody who's interested in going to the arts and entertainment, it's a really hard place to be, but if you're passionate, it's really worth it. And if you meet the right people and you're a good person, you can pretty much do anything.